Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we are very pleased you've joined us for the Precious Metals and Critical Minerals Conference. The next presentation of the day is from Great Pacific Gold. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Alex Heath, Chief Financial Officer of Great Pacific Gold, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol GPGCF and on TSXV under the symbol GPAC. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks, Lily. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here to present to you today Great Pacific Gold and why we think we have one of the most exciting and dynamic high-grade gold exploration projects in Papua New Guinea. Before I begin, I will be making some forward-looking statements. So please, before you make any investments, please do your own due diligence. Some of the things I'm saying today are based on the best available information, but we've got an active exploration program, so things can change quite quickly. So please exercise caution before making your investments. I'll start off with just a quick snapshot of our capital structure. We're currently sitting on about $10 million in cash. We also hold 3 million shares of a company called AUX. It's a Canadian company that we sold some assets to, so those are worth about $1 million Canadian. We've got 152.3 million shares outstanding, 7.8 million stock options, 5.3 million RSUs, 27 million warrants. The strike price on those is anywhere between 45 cents and 70 cents Canadian, for a fully diluted share count of 192.5 million shares. To the right of the screen there, you can see our institutional shareholdings. We've got some of the most sophisticated, smartest investors out there. Franklin Templeton out of San Mateo, California. They came in July, along with all the other institutions, when we did a financing that was completed by Canaccord Capital, including Haywood Securities, and a couple other ones. Commodity Capital is also a shareholder, Ixios, Libra, and 9 They all came in at the same level. It was a 45-cent financing, raising $17 million with a 70-cent warrant on that. So we've got what we think is a pretty good mix of institutional and retail shareholdings. Historically, the company was financed by retail investors, but as we've advanced our projects and what we think is a very exciting exploration play, we think we're going to have more institutional investors interested, which does two things for us. One, it allows us to raise larger capital. I mean, they're more able to raise big ticket financings. $17 million is a large amount of money. But the retail shareholders are equally important because those are our base. Those are the guys who actually trade the stock, and it's important to have a good mix of both. So why GPAC now? So in a nutshell, I think we can say that 2025 was a transitional year for the company. Prior to this, the company had been focused on a portfolio of Australian assets. The company was founded by the same people who were behind K92, which we'll talk about shortly. And it was really focused in the Fosterville area of Australia. But as we advanced those projects and as we continued to add projects to the portfolio, we made the decision in 2025 to really focus in on Papua New Guinea. And that was kind of twofold. One being that the exploration results that we were getting in Papua New Guinea were extremely good. And on the other hand, in Australia, we were just spread a little bit too thin. So in order to really maximize shareholder value, we made the decision to divest of those Australian assets. And we did that through a series of transactions, which also provided us with non-dilutive financing. We received cash and shares. And ultimately, in December of 2025, we had the final spin out, which was a 1-to-1 spin out of our Walhalla asset. So shareholders received a share of that. And that's imminently going to be trading on the CSE exchange. We also added to our management team. We brought in Callum Spink, who's our VP of Exploration, and he's got over 10 years experience operating in Papua New Guinea, working for some of the biggest mining companies in the world there. And like I said previously, we raised $17 million. So it was really a recapitalization, refocus on Papua New Guinea. We also began our drill program at our flagship Wild Dog project, which I'll get into shortly. And immediately we saw results. In the very first hole, high-grade gold results. That was really the starting point and the foundation for how we were able to raise more money and what we think will be a very exciting 2026. Just to quickly finish up on 2025, we drilled 3,000 meters of drilling through 16 holes, high-grade results, and I'll get into those shortly. But what we see is very exciting. In 2026, we've got a second drill that's imminently going to arrive on site, and it'll increase the news flow and what we think will be more high-grade gold results from our Wild Dog project. So let me talk to you a little bit about Papua New Guinea. I mean, in a few words, world-class geology. This is right on the Ring of Fire, and if you can zoom in here, you can see some of the world's largest gold and copper deposits. Take a look at Ok Tedi, 33 million ounces of gold. Barrick and Zijin, they got the Porgera gold deposit. Santa Barbara, 7 million ounces. Newmont and Lihir, over 30 million ounces of gold. So we are an absolute elephant country, and we're in the heart of it. You can see, I'm not sure if you can see my pointer, but the Wild Dog project itself sits in New Britain. It's an island to the east of the mainland there. And when I zoom in there on the next couple of slides, you'll see just how excellent the infrastructure is. Another important part that's really sort of the hidden gem to Papua New Guinea, not just geology, but these large companies have been operating in the country for decades now. So we not only have good, highly paid, highly trained individuals who work for Newmonts and the Barricks of the world, so they understand geology very well, they understand safety very well. So we're able to access a pool of talent to come to our project, which really is an advantage to being in Papua New Guinea. I'm going to skip ahead to this next slide here, just on the infrastructure in New Britain, and specifically in the eastern part of the island. We think we've got, really absolutely excellent infrastructure. We recently hosted a site visit to analysts in October, and we were in the capital of Port Moresby having breakfast at 7 in the morning. And by 10 a.m., we were on site looking at drill core. So a couple-hour flight goes right to the Takwa airport, multiple not international flights, but multiple commercial flights daily. Rabaul is a deep water port, so we can actually import goods. We've got a second drill that's coming. It's going to go right to that port. And from there, it's about a 50-kilometer drive on a mainly paved road. About 75% of the way is paved, right to site. Then the rest of the way is on a gravel road. Another major advantage for us in looking downfield for when this potentially could be an operating mine is there's, you can see right there a little lightning bolt kind of in the middle of the page there. My pointer is the Warrangoy hydroelectric plant. It's a run-of-river plant producing electricity, and that can easily be twinned. So, looking further afield, airport, deep water port, road access, and hydroelectric power, absolutely advantageous for when you want to start building a mine. Also equally important to geology, obviously, is social license. You can't operate if you don't talk to the locals. We've got a local team that does community relations. You can see on the bottom, or sort of left side of the screen there, that's our in-country manager, Ron Gowie, in March of last year, presenting to the local population there. We had over 5,000 attendees. One thing to take note of, Papua New Guinea is a fairly diverse country in terms of languages. There's almost 800 languages, lots of different communities. Where we are located in East New Britain, we only have one community that we have to deal with, which is advantageous for us because it just makes things just exponentially less complicated. Another project that we have sort of in the highlands, just to put it in perspective, we've got 13 different communities that we have to talk to. So just makes it a lot easier. I'm going to go back to the slide from slide 6 here. And this is zooming in on the Wild Dog project itself. So it's made up of 2 main exploration licenses covering an area of 1,400 square kilometers. So an enormous area. And the reason we did this, firstly, we acquired the centerpiece there. This is a past producing operation back in the early 2000s. A company called New Guinea Gold actually tried to extract the high-grade gold from the oxides on surface, which they were not very successful in doing so, and it's only because of the fact that they were trying to heap leach gold when there's copper in the system. It just gums up the whole thing. But we then staked all around it, because what we were trying to do was get the entirety of what we call the Wild Dog corridor, which is this 15-kilometer trend. Within that, we're seeing all the high-grade gold. So we were able to do that. So we staked. So it's one project that we acquired. We own 90% of it. That's the center. And then the external parts, I'm not sure if you can see it on the pointers, but that property right there was us acquiring it through staking. The main area that we started drilling on was, you can see my pointer there, is on Synovit. This is the area that was open pit mined back in the early 2000s. And the only reason we started there was because we can see the geology on surface. The rest of the area, it's a little bit harder, just given access, thick brush. You can't really see it. You need to use, mobile MT, which is geophysical surveys, LiDAR, in order to really zero in on where the main structure is. But what we decided to do was focus on Synovit, because we knew that there was historical data, there was mining operations. We can see the actual ore body when we go to surface in the open pit, and just to drill underneath it to prove that the high grade doesn't just sit on surface, it extends to what we believe is potentially over 1 kilometer deep. I'll go to the next slide here. So zooming in, this is the Synovit target. This was the area of focus for our 3,000 meters of drilling in 2025. As you can see, we first started to, so this is an image on a long section looking at the page, looking west. So to the left of the page would be south, and to the right of the page would be north. So in this southern oxide chute right here is where the mining was conducted. So historical drilling data, we had 1,500 or so holes of historic data. Some of that does not exist anymore. There's no more collars because it's been mined out. But what we wanted to do was just show that we could prove that the gold extended below surface to about 200 meters, and that was proven. In addition, we sort of moved over to the right, to north, underneath what we call the northern sulfide chute. And this is where we had some of our best drill results. You can see that up here, 3.5 meters, 4.9% copper, 4 grams per ton gold, and then 8.4 meters of 1.9% copper and 46 grams per ton gold. So just almost 2 ounces of gold per ton. Absolutely stunning grades. And what we're sort of zeroing in on is that the main trend, the Wild Dog trend, is the host to this mineralization. It's not one contiguous sheet of gold, unfortunately, but we are seeing high-grade shoots within that. So as we expand into the 2026 program, what we're trying to do is find and follow that main Wild Dog trend, do surface sampling, use geophysics like mobile MT program, using the LiDAR survey to really see that structure on surface, do some sampling, good old-fashioned prospecting, geochemical sampling, trenching, and then ultimately drilling underneath those structures to find those high-grade shoots. Quickly jump to the next page. So this is, again, a plan. You can see the plan view in the top right-hand corner. This is basically the bird's eye view of that main Synovit target. And what we're looking at are cross sections through the ore body, A, B, C, D. You can kind of see that corresponding to those slices through the main section. And this is just to show you what we're looking for here. So within that main Wild Dog structure, we're finding these high-grade lenses or shoots that cut through there. And that's where you get that really high concentration of high-grade gold, 13.4 grams of 8, 9.5 meters of 13, et cetera, et cetera. So again, this is what we're looking for. It doesn't go forever on surface, but we're looking for enough of these shoots along that 15-kilometer trend that each one of those could host 100,000 upwards of 1,000,000 ounces, depending on the geometry and the grade. This is sort of stepping back a little bit further, so you can see again, this is the main Synovit target that we drilled in 2025. And so that was sort of about a 1.5 kilometer zone. So we're stepping out to 4.5, so 3 times the size. Again, we're looking, this is the long section, looking west. To the right of the page is north, and to the left of the page is south. So looking forward to 2026, Kawasuki is another area that has seen historical drilling. So we've got proof that there is gold in some of those holes. We've also got some trenching, 8.5 meters of 2.3, 28 meters of 4.5 grams. So again, another indication that there could be another one of these high-grade shoots. To the left of the page, Megmut is another area. Again, historical drill holes, historical trenching. So again, just trying to follow up on all of these targets, starting with the highest probability. We're not necessarily going for the ones that are going to be, 1,000,000 ounce deposits, but we're just trying to go for best risk reward for what we've got in front of us. Quickly jump to the next page, and this kind of talks to our methodology for coming in on drill targets. We've got over 25 different targets that we could be drilling, but we have a systematic approach to it. First, we define, is it along that wild dog corridor? We do some sampling, prospecting, geochemistry to sort of zoom in on some of those areas that there is going to be high grade on surface. We then follow up with trenching and ultimately decide on where we're going to put that drill pad. So we've just stopped drilling at Synovit. Shortly, you're going to see some news out. We're going to be moving that. We've got 3 main targets that are going to be the next up to bat in the priority sequence. So I'll start talking to that shortly here. So these are not necessarily in order of priority. These are just the 3 next priorities for the second drill that's about to arrive. The first is the Cassidy Ridge target. Again, this is following up on potential epithermal system, 400 to 500 meter target. We're seeing advanced argillics, which is indication that there's some hydrothermal fluid flows coming through the system. We've done mobile MT. Again, this is the coincident data that we're looking for. So not just a gold sample on surface, and not just geophysics, it's all coming together. Magnetics, LiDAR, and sampling, ultimately saying, let's put a hole here and let's see what's happening below the surface. So this is one of the top priorities. We'll be drilling that this year in the coming months. Another high priority target here is Kawasuki. Again, this is just north of the main Synovit area that was the operations from the past and the drilling that we did in 2025. And again, historical drill holes and trenching pointing to what we think is a very high probability of success for finding gold. We'll see what that means in terms of grade and thickness, but we're very optimistic about what we will see here. And you should see some news shortly about the drill being moved over to there to start drilling. And the third, not necessarily the last target, but the third of the most recent high priority areas is Megmut, which is about 2 kilometers south of Synovit. And this has historical trenching and some geochemical proof that there is gold. So what we're going to do is initially start out with 3 drill holes, targeting those trenches, drilling right below it. And that should give us some evidence of what's going on below surface in terms of the structure, and see if there's any potential for high-grade shoots, again, similar to Synovit. And ultimately, what we think is the real prize, and it's not necessarily the top priority right now, just given where we are. We see so much potential with the epithermal high-grade system, but what we see a lot of in these types of epithermal deposits, and certainly in Papua New Guinea, is that the source of the epithermal gold that we're seeing at surface is a large porphyry. And so we've got a new member of our team, Paul Mariner, who's come in, and he's going to be sort of leading that charge in terms of looking for potential porphyry targets for drilling later on. Not necessarily right now. They tend to be deep, expensive to drill for. So just sticking to the highest priority, highest probability of success in really drilling out the resource potential for the epithermal system. But this is certainly something that is of significant interest for us. We are also talking to potential partners for this. There's some large companies that are much more interested in looking for 10 million to 40 million ounce deposits. That's not to say that we aren't. It's just the risk reward is not quite there for us yet. But every drill hole we drill is more evidence for us, and it provides us with more data to start really zeroing in on what the source is for all this gold that we're seeing. So significant porphyry upside potential, and we hope to have some more information as we move forward. So, I mean, that's the company in a nutshell. As I said, we've focused in on Papua New Guinea. We've added management team in Papua New Guinea, and really looking forward to adding that second drill shortly to continue to drill out that phase 1 drill program at Wild Dog, and then ultimately to define a resource and one day build a mine. So I think at this point, I'll open it up to questions. I'm just going to quickly move my screen over and take some of these questions here. So let me just read out the first question. How do you prioritize capital and technical resources between Wild Dog and Kesar Arau, and what would cause you to reallocate that priority? Okay, so that's a great question. I didn't really touch on Kesar and Arau. Those are projects that we've that are located right around K92. K92 is probably one of the better known junior exploration, well, not exploration anymore, development companies that about 10 years ago or so bought an asset for $2 million, advanced it, and are now producing high grade gold, and their market cap is something like $6 billion. So how do we allocate capital based on that? Yeah, it really comes down to results. I mean, we drilled at Kesar, and while we did get some high grade gold, it was very narrow intervals. Whereas at Wild Dog, you can see some of the holes, we're talking 15 meters of 8 grams, or, the highest grade was 8.4 meters of 50 grams per ton. So to me and to the team, it's really about having the best bang for your dollar, right? It's also much more difficult to operate in the highlands. Just the access to the area is helicopter only. It's very, very steep incline. Whereas at Wild Dog, we can go back to that slide. I'll just quickly jump to it. But the infrastructure is just so significantly better. You can drive right to site. The drill pads, the drills themselves are track mounted. So they literally go from one drill pad to the next, which makes it exponentially easier to operate at Wild Dog. So let me just take the next question. Apologize for the delay here, guys. You mentioned drilling at Sinavit has finished. GM recently said the rig was going to be at Sinavit for the foreseeable future in order to find a resource there. Has the plan now changed? It has not changed. It's just that we have 2 drill rigs. So Sinavit is definitely a high priority target. We've shown that there's high grade gold on surface, or at least near surface within 150 to 200 meters, and we'll continue to drill that out. So that's going to be the basis for ultimately a resource, right? It's going to be built around Sinavit, and hopefully as we drill out Kavasuki and Mengmut and others, they'll start to hang together, and we can show that there's not only continuity of grade along strike, but also at surface. Sorry, I meant to say at depth. Okay. Question here. The northern sulfide chute continues to deliver standout grades. What gives you confidence that this is the beginning of a broader high-grade trend along the Wild Dog corridor rather than an isolated chute? Yeah, so that's just a confluence of information. Like I said previously, we've got mobile MT, LiDAR, geochemical information, trenching. So it's not one piece of information that we're kind of assessing here. We're seeing multiple pieces of information all kind of coalescing into sort of one sort of theory. We also look at different deposit types. So we've got some analogies. For example, Kupol in Russia, which used to be a Kinross asset, was very similar to this. You've got a main trend epithermal system, and within that there's high grade shoots, and each one of those is a couple 100,000 ounces, and you can, the more of those you have, the quicker you can drill up a multi-million ounce deposit. So we're sort of using historical data and other analogies that are similar to ours. Question here says, you've added a management team with mine building and PNG experience. What are the key lessons from Porgera, Lihir, K92 that you're applying directly at Wild Dog? Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, we are definitely very close to K92. I think I might have mentioned this previously, that the founders of K92 were also the founders of Great Pacific. So there may not be involved in the day-to-day activities. We're still very friendly. For example, John Lewins used to be chairman of the company. He's now a friend and advisor to the company. And we can certainly talk to him about his experience. And importantly, in Papua New Guinea, it's about permitting, right? And having social license. Those are important. We know the geology is good. We know that we've got good infrastructure and we can build these things, but making sure that the locals understand what you're up to, that the government is involved. I mean, that is key to any operation. And those are the types of things that we can really, even though Greg McCunn, who's our CEO, has built 3 mines himself, it's always different depending on the jurisdiction. And knowing the right people and being able to talk to the right people are critical. And those are the types of things, those are the type of relationships that we're starting today so that we don't have to try and figure it out down the road in a few years. Next question here is, how are you thinking about balancing near-term shareholder dilution against the potential value creation from aggressively drilling out a district scale system? Well, it's still early and largely your own discovery. Yeah, that is junior exploration right there. You're always going to be diluting, unfortunately. There's really no source of revenue. We did in 2025 sell a lot of our non-core Australian assets, and the idea there was really to not only focus on PNG but also provide non-dilutive financing. So now that that's done, we don't really have any other assets that we really want to monetize at this point. It's really about making sure that we have high priority targets, that the news is good, obviously, and we are seeing that in the drill core, and also being able to explain that and market that to the broader markets. If we're seeing our share price go down and we have to raise money, obviously that's dilutive. So what we want to show is that we've got high grade results, that it's hanging together, and that we are adding more value every time we drill a hole. Next question is, how are your new institutional shareholders encouraging you to think about going faster in 26, 27 if results continue to support a large high-grade system? Yeah, I mean, they're definitely interested, and they agree with us in terms of the strategy of focusing in on those near-term targets that are close to Sinavit. Yeah, it's definitely a balance. I mean, even though we've got $10+ million in the bank today, we are spending it. And when the second drill comes, we're spending it maybe not twice as fast, but certainly much faster. So it is, again, back to that previous question about balancing that dilution with value added. So, if we do come up with a spectacular grade and the share price goes up rapidly, I think it would be probably in our best interest and for all shareholders for us to accelerate drilling in order to continue to do that, and maybe get a third drill or fourth, depending on if we can come up with drill targets. I mean, that is another part of the equation here. You don't want to just blindly go and start drilling. There is a certain amount of work that has to be done to really prioritize. And I can just quickly go back to this slide here, which talks about how we sort of come up with priority targets. You start with a broad brush, again, in that main corridor, but what are the indications that you have on surface? What data do you have? And how confident are you that when you drill that hole, you're not just getting interesting geological data that you're actually, coming in on high grade gold. So it's a bit of a balance for sure. Next question, you've highlighted strong local government support. Do you see the support potentially translating into shorter permitting timelines versus what investors might assume in PNG? Yes, that's generally the case. In a lot of jurisdictions, if you've got competing interests and divergent views, that makes it a lot harder. But if you've got local, state, and the country behind you, certainly speeds up the permitting process. At this point, it's still early days. We're not really looking at the potentially permitting a mine just yet. It's exploration, but certainly helps that we're talking to the right people. We've got relationships that go almost all the way to the top. So that is a key consideration. I think at this point we are out of time. Maybe we'll just hand it back over to Lily, and all the other questions I'll try to get back to you on those ones. If you want to get a hold of me, you can also send an email to info@gpacgoldcorp.com. Thank you very much.